Everyone, welcome to Take a Break with Drake, America's Bible teacher. We are in Waitsburg, Washington. I'm in Waitsburg, Washington. Looks like Drake and Tony are in Israel. It's October 2nd. It's Friday. Friday.
Yes, good morning. It is October 2nd. We are in Waitsburg, Washington today. We have Tony Sykes here from Dayton, Washington, and that's on the screen, dear?
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Yes, it's on the screen. So, anyhow. Where are you on the screen to me? So when
I'm not on the screen yet.
Okay.
I'm still fiddling around with all these.
Acts like I'm talking to her, but I'm looking away from the bubble and it comes out backward. But anyhow, yeah, Tony is the pastor of Faith Chapel, Dayton, Washington. It's the octagon-shaped, cool-looking church. It doesn't look like a church from the 1700s or 1800s. Right. And you've been there how long?
For at least 8 years. I have to figure it out, but quite a while. It's been a while.
8 years, yeah. Well, it's a perky fellowship, shall we say?
Yeah.
It really is. And this Sunday morning, and the first Sunday of each month, as a congregation, you have breakfast together.
That's right, 9:30.
Yeah, it's just wow.
Delicious.
I've heard of a men's breakfast on a Saturday or some event where they'll feed a crew and then leave, but breakfast together as a congregation before church the first Sunday, I thought, well, man, that's fun. So
it is. That's good.
Wife and I, we're going to get going real quick, and we were assigned to speak at another church in Dayton. And it started much later than the breakfast did, so we had breakfast with Tony, and then I went and spoke at another church and wife did the piano, so that was kind of cool. And they were like, "Hey, fine, just eat with us and leave if you need to."
Yeah,
so,
eat and split.
Please.
Yeah, just
it
like.
was good. Oh, we're getting some feedback, Tony. Here we've got a guest. It's Regis Philbin.
Again?
Yeah, Regis Philbin. He says, Tony, you're looking great. Okay. Live feed from the other side of the cosmos.
Right.
But
You're a nut.
Yeah, Tony, tell us when you met the Lord.
At a pretty much young age, I grew up in church because my grandfather was a Baptist pastor in California.
What city?
In Baldwin Park.
Baldwin Park, 91706. That was my zip code early years of grammar school. So we were near each other and we didn't know it.
That's right. And just growing up, I just absolutely loved church and going to church. And one of my favorite things is because he actually built the church and pastored the church that I went to, but then later on he would also go to a lot of different churches and fill in for people.
Yeah.
And so I just loved going to different churches and meeting other Christians and fellow believers. It was a wonderful time. Just loved it. That's one of my favorite things to do to this day.
When you did they have a greeting time? Say, oh, well, greet one another. Did they do that?
Some of them did. But most of them didn't.
Yeah.
Speaking of greeting, Dan Best says, "Good morning, friends."
Dan the best. Good to see you, Dan. I remember greeting time. My dad was a pastor, and he said, "Oh, well, let's greet one another." And then piano would be going. Oh man, I would act like I just won a gold medal. Oh man, I was running through. And when they'd say, "Okay, let's all take our seats now," and they'd say, "Drake, you can sit down now." I mean, I couldn't get enough of the greeting time.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Yeah, we do that. We do that. Well, we did, and we're not doing it presently because of the virus. But that's one of the things that we do at Faith Chapel. It's just nice to get everybody together and see how everybody's doing and things like that.
I was 5 when I said, "Hey, I got to do this Jesus thing. I just can't be a church mouse that's scampering around in church. I need to really commit here." That hit me at 5.
That's pretty early.
It's just so, I've got to do this. It was just as urgent as if the building was on fire. It wasn't frantic, but do you recall the date? I don't give you a date, but you were 4th grade, 2nd grade?
Actually, it was early on, and of course, being real young, you don't totally understand. But one of my fondest memories is junior church. And there at the church in Baldwin Park, and the the woman teaching the Bible story was talking about, and I still remember to this day, basically like talking about two frogs and the seasons changing, and the frogs are supposed to leave because the pond freezes over and all that stuff, and one didn't listen and wasn't, I can stay, I have no problem, and then end up, freezing, and because it didn't leave when it was supposed to, that type of thing. But anyway, bringing that back to God and putting your faith in God, and that was the first time I actually went up and accepted Jesus, not fully understanding what I'm doing, but my heart from the very beginning is for God. Not that I lived the way I should and was always doing what's right. There's always a time I got to go. You know what? It's time to do what God wants. That type of thing. But
that's awesome. And then, and for me, it was 19 when I said, something. God wants me on His team, and I've just been a dilly dally dude, just bopping and wasting my time away. Did you have a dedication time where you thought, okay, it's time to really get serious? Sounds like you did.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately for me, it was a few different times. So that's what I'm saying, where you're deciding you're going to follow God, you're going to do the things, but then like so many people start getting into yourself and doing what I want to do and the things that I like to do and those type of things, and kind of getting away from God, and then having to come back and say, you know what, this is what's important, this is what matters, and nothing else matters, especially for all eternity. So that's.
I like you when you say nothing else matters. I remember, I wasn't at this event, but a guy gave a presentation at a university, and a Buddhist was the professor. Mm-hmm. An Asian Buddhist taught this class, and the guest speaker was a Christian explaining evangelicalism. And they got done, and it was, what's the professor going to? He says, if this man is right, if this man is wrong, it doesn't matter.
Right, it doesn't matter.
If this man is right, nothing else matters.
Absolutely.
And this is a Buddhist talking. So, I like, this stuff matters big time. So you, you went straight into ministry, or, because I know you're an expert cabinet maker too.
Well, I wouldn't say expert, just a long time.
I've seen his work. I would say he's expert. Ha ha.
Well, then I am.
Okay.
You say so, then that's
because I'm the expert.
By
that's
Drake.
Yeah. So, but you've done cabinet making. Did you? I mean, were you pastoring in your 20s?
No. I was serving the Lord at. In my 20s, that was way back. I would be back at the. Actually, that was probably Calvary Chapel. So I did start going to Calvary Chapels for a few years and teaching class and things like that.
You were teaching class at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa?
No, Calvary Chapel, Hesperia. At the time.
Hesperia, up in the high country. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's above Los Angeles.
Right.
Out toward, you're starting on the road on the way to Nevada.
But my profession was cabinet building. Mm-hmm. I had my own cabinet shop.
Yeah, that's and again, I've seen your work. You've done a lot of work in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a commute.
Yeah. That tell the story of going to Hawaii. When I used to do a lot of eyeglass displays, fancy eyeglass displays, and then one of the doctors from Hawaii, wanted me to build some cabinets there. So he sent me all the measurements and all the drawings and everything else. But I said they had to fit in certain areas and next to posts and all this stuff. So I said, I'll build them, but if they don't fit, that's not my problem. So he paid to have me go down there. So I flew all the way down from L.A. to Hawaii, and then took the little plane to Kauai, measured for 2 hours, and then went back to the airport and then flew all the way back, all in one day. If I had time, I would have stayed longer, but I was so busy I just couldn't stay. So I had to just go there. So that's the longest measuring trip ever. So for me, anyway.
You're flying, total round trip. That's 5,000 miles.
Yeah, and made a mistake, so I had to go back. No, just kidding. What was that measurement again? You got to pay. Come back.
Was it metric or was it in inches? Right. So, my goodness. So, but you. So you were at a Calvary Chapel in Hesperia, and your shop was there as well?
Yeah, it was there.
So break up your week back then. You'd be doing cabinets, and then you'd teach on the weekends?
No, I basically taught a Bible study, off and on different things, but mainly taught a Bible study in the evening. I believe it was so long ago. It was probably like on a Thursday evening or something like that. Yeah, just that, and then some Sunday school classes, things like that. But that was a long time ago.
You guys catching this here? We have a carpenter that's doing ministry.
Ah,
does that sound familiar?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't get it. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I was just saying that life is like chutes and ladders, and Jesus is here to hand you a ladder because he's the carpenter.
Yeah. That's great.
That's a good point. As long as we stay on, we're going up, and once we get thinking of ourselves, we start going down.
That's right.
Hey, I've got one out of nowhere here. Your favorite character, vignette, story in the Bible era. What's your favorite?
Oh man, that's a favorite story in the Bible. Man, there's just so many of them.
Drake, the look on your face.
Didn't mean to stump him here. I'm trying not to be embarrassed.
The Good Samaritan is a good one.
Oh, that's an awesome
that
story.
One. Yeah, that's a really good one. Just showing, someone actually caring about someone else more than themselves, and doing, and especially because the religious leaders are doing the opposite.
Oh,
the ones that are supposed to be the ones that are doing doing what's right and helping people and loving people were the ones that weren't loving people and loving themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's a good example for us to remember, for me to remember.
You know what's amazing to me is the tension between North and South, Jerusalem and Galilee, Nazareth up north. The 11 true disciples were from the north, above Samaria and Galilee. And there was one disciple from Jerusalem, and he was the bookkeeper, and he was Judas Iscariot, and he changed. And Jesus talks about the good Samaritan. We're so used to the phrase, we don't hear it anymore.
Right. What it actually means. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember hearing somebody, they had an awesome grandfather clock, and she says, I don't know. I said, wow, that chime in there. She says, I'm so accustomed to it, I don't hear it. We're so accustomed to that phrase, Good Samaritan, we don't know that the Samaritan was a phrase.
Right. Oh yeah, they didn't like it.
No, they didn't like the people. But hey, so you can be from anywhere, but if you're kind and you reach out and you minister and you obey the Lord, God's on your side. That's cool. That's your favorite Bible story. Mine would have to be Daniel or Elijah, for two different reasons. The integrity and the fervor. I thought, wow, I like those guys.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but so you were a cabinet maker and teaching classes, but you weren't the pastor in Southern California.
No.
Okay.
Not nowhere near.
I bet the pastors really liked you, because I love it when someone says, hey, I'll teach a class, I'll help, I'll volunteer, I'll pitch in. You sound like you were eager.
Yeah, I definitely was. But of course, in Calvary Chapels, I mean, there was I don't remember the number of people they had. It was a big building, so they generally have quite a few people willing to teach and do things. Yeah, and
there's a lot of classes to choose from.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Did you ever get static from a pastor?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Oh, doctrinally you're off. Or,
tell us about a bad time. No, geez, Drake.
I mean, I've had a few of these where I seriously, I've taught a few classes where it became so effective. There was one time, over 30 years ago, where the Sunday school class got bigger than the congregation. And I dealt with some, just, what do I do? Act stupid? Act like, I shouldn't teach this stuff so dynamically. And what do I do here? It was a conundrum. It was a Saul David type of conundrum. That's happened 2 times. But the pastors, I'm guessing the pastors really, really liked you. Because, I mean, we go to your church now, too. And the teaching is, I mean, every Sunday we leave and I'm thinking, I'm hunting right. I'm on the way home going, that was great. That was great.
I know, and then I say, get your hands back on the wheel.
So, but things were all positive.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, for the most part, yeah. And that's and actually that was where I first got to go on a foreign mission trip to Russia, and I was able to go twice with Calvary Chapel, and those I mean those were awesome.
We've got time. Walk us. We're just right at the halfway point, so we've got time. A mission trip to Russia.
Tell us the story.
I mean, this isn't candy canes in Tijuana and show of hands and whatever.
What time of year was it?
It was wintertime, so it was cold.
Perfect.
And so we're outside doing, they do skits and songs and stuff, because the main thing that we would do there is do the skits, do the songs, do stuff outside, and people going and traveling through and doing all the stuff that they would come and say, what are you doing? Out in the middle of, it's freezing cold out here. So we'd have flyers in Russian and talk about invite people to a Bible study in the evening. And it was very effective. It was very good. But it was really cold. I mean, if you learn to play guitar and your fingers are freezing, that type of thing. But it was just great.
Gee whiz.
Yeah. You forgot to mention that Tony plays guitar.
Yeah.
But not good.
No, Tony leads guitar worship on Sundays, as well as teaches. So it's like visiting Donny Osmond for the morning. This guy does it all. But how long were you in Russia?
2 weeks each time.
You flew into where?
Moscow.
Flew into Moscow, and take us on a clock. You went straight north. You went toward 3 o'clock east.
You got me. We're in Moscow, and then from Moscow on one of the side trips we went on a 12-hour train ride to Nizhny Gorodok.
Oh, yes. Yeah. They got a great in and out there, by the way.
Jeez. Oh, brother.
Wow, I've not heard of that town.
Right. Oh, no. But it's.
Can imagine.
It was interesting. In fact, one of the just a short little story about that, if I can. One of the amazing things is while we're traveling, two things. One, we had a guy who just really snores. I mean, really, really snores. Yeah. And it's a sleeping train, so. He was snoring and snoring. So finally, a Russian lady came up and just started smacking him and just saying stuff in Russian, trying to get him to stop. So that was just pretty funny. It was a kind of weird thing. But on the other hand, one of the most amazing things on that trip was Muslim. A couple elderly women were asking questions, and so I and my interpreter were able to answer some questions. And so then they're interpreting it to them, and when I'm done, we were talking for quite a while, and when I'm done and you can see people in all these different berths there where they're laying down and stuff, but they were all like sitting, and they were listening and hearing about Jesus Christ and all that Jesus has done and all this stuff. And I like going from the beginning, kind of Genesis, and going through things like that. And
And
so
you had time.
It was it's 12 hours, So, but it was really amazing just to see people listening. They didn't have to listen, but they were listening because a lot of them. I even had my interpreters, not that one at that time, but other interpreters say, what, I've never heard that. Because they're interpreting, but they're young Christians and still learning, as we all are, and by translating, hearing some of the stories for the first time too. That's pretty cool.
That's amazing. That's like the Road to Emmaus experience.
That really is.
Yeah.
That really is.
Cool.
And
cool.
This is a safe topic with this guy, and it's safe to me. Someone, a friend that I know, explained the gospel to Donald Trump, summer 2016, and his first comment, when he got done with the explanation of what the gospel is, Donald Trump said, "I've never heard this before." He never heard the gospel story. He's 70 years old, living in the USA, and he never heard the full gospel story. So when you tell it in any setting, it's good news. It really is good news. And that's amazing. So you were there, and what I've taken over 1,000 people to the mission field. Mm-hmm. On the way home, what's hitting you? Like, wow, I need to be a missionary, or wow, I need to tell people about missions, or wow, I got to. What's hitting you on the way home?
Well, for me, one of the amazing things is in a mission field, and at least in my few times going, the amazing thing was that people were interested in what you had to say, versus in the United States where they don't care what you have to say many times, because they hear it or they see it, it's on TV, it's around, so people talking about Jesus or talking about God, it happens a lot more often here than it does there. And so even if, whether they're going to accept Jesus Christ or not, they're generally interested in what you have to say. And so that was pretty amazing.
Wow.
And also the fact that in Russia at the time, this is the early 90s, that they were allowed to talk about God and Jesus Christ in schools where we weren't in the United States. So because we went to schools, we had assemblies and things like that in schools, talking about Jesus Christ in school in Russia, where we couldn't do it in the United States.
Yeah,
right?
So a lot of Europe looks at America and says, you can't talk about God in schools, and yet everybody goes to church. I mean, way over 100 million Americans go to church. Last I heard, it's 135 million go to church every week, but it's illegal in schools, and they teach it in schools in Europe and Scandinavia, and people haven't been going to church. COVID's changed that.
Right.
Church attendance has gone up during this Corona thing, but in the general sense, they don't go to church there, but they teach it in schools. And how someone explained it to me in Finland 2 years ago, and they were like, "How does this happen?" And he's a Finn talking Finn, and he claims he was agnostic, but he was completely taught Christianity in schools. So that's a head scratcher.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, but you speak in 2 schools, or you lost
Oh
count?
no, it was mostly where we were going was schools. Yeah.
Wow.
In the daytime.
Yeah.
In the daytime, then having Bible studies at night.
When you left Hesperia, Southern California, and said, we need to move to Dayton, Washington, you didn't just spin a map and say, it's time to move. I think I've got the itch. I need. What was the impetus for the move to Dayton, Washington?
Well, at that time, as typical as not typical, it's probably untypical but things that do happen with Christians, again, like my point was that I decided at certain points in time that I wanted to do what Tony wanted to do, and through different things ended up getting divorced at that time, and divorced and that. But having lived in Washington before, I decided to move back to Washington State, and from that point on, dedicating my life to God, doing what God wants me to do, and then that changed. And so for the longest time, just going to church and doing what God wants me to do, and then God moving things and making things come about to where I could be in the ministry again, and it was just amazing. And it's a total God thing. If I told you some of the stories of that, it would be pretty amazing too. Just how God can use someone who is divorced, and if you're willing, and want to be used by God, and are willing to do what He wants you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You didn't. Did you go through a tunnel? It sounds like you might have gone through a tunnel where you felt like, well, he's done. He's done with me now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I go on the ministerial scrap heap.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even unfortunately, even churches the same way. Because back to certain beliefs or certain things. Well, yeah, if you were divorced, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
But just a quick story. An amazing thing took place. I don't remind you, I don't have time. It can be short.
Yeah, we've got.
But actually, before I became pastor in Basin City, it's a small town out here. The church I was in at the time, and I won't mention the name of the church, but a great pastor, a good friend of mine. But the rules of the church, they were voting for a deacon, and at the time, I was disqualified from being a deacon. 6 months later, I was a pastor. That God arranged it that I was a pastor of a small church. Yeah. But because of the beliefs in the church at the time, you couldn't be a deacon if you were divorced, because that was just their view. I believe it's wrong, but that's their view. Mm-hmm. But the amazing thing is that within 6 months, it was totally different.
Yeah.
And
wow.
And God's been blessing all the time, not because of me. The opposite. In spite of me, God makes things happen.
Imagine if NASCAR said, okay, you can drive for NASCAR, but you need to have never been in a wreck.
Accident. Yeah, right.
If you've ever been in a wreck, you can't be in NASCAR anymore. It would be.
Or if you're a basketball player, you can't miss any free
Right.
throws.
Yeah,
Right.
if you ever miss a free throw, you're
off the
disqualified from the league.
Right.
That's kind of
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
strange. So you there's a camp that you're at, and you say the name, and I'll spell it for people.
Okay, Camp Touchet.
Camp Touchet, Touchet. That's a French spelling, and this
There's
is
a lot
not
of French settlement.
Yeah, this is not a
in
French
this area.
area, but
There were a lot of people from France that settled in here years ago. That's why there are quite a few
little
French names around.
But Tony, what are you at Camp Touchet?
Right now, I'm the camp steward, which is basically like a manager. I was manager there for 7.5 years. In fact, moved from Basin City to Dayton to manage Camp Touchet, and then started pastoring the church too at the same time. So.
And I've been to Camp Touchet. It's awesome. It's on the Touchet River, and it is good grief. I don't think there's a celebrity on earth that would walk in and go, "Oh, this is not fancy enough for me." It is awesome. Big log cabins. Because I was there 6 weeks ago.
A big log lodge.
Yeah, logs. Yeah, it's like, wow. And the field is beautiful.
And we're open too.
Yeah,
because we're in phase 3, where many places aren't, and so groups up to 50. You can have a retreat there.
Yeah, and you had a
what's
flood.
the website for the Camp Touchet?
Website? What?
Yeah, is there a website for Camp
Is there
Touchet?
a website?
How do people get there?
It is. A good question. Yeah, I'm sure you can just Google Camp Touchet, Dayton, Washington, and it'll come up. And there is a website, and it's run by the CBBA, Columbia Basin Baptist Association, and it's a beautiful site, and it's inexpensive as well. So
yeah, it's very, very affordable. I went to a retreat there, and I thought, this is very fair, a very fair price, and it's just a beautiful facility right along the Touchet River. So you steward the camp, you manage the facilities there, you pastor Faith Chapel. How does your week work? Are you at the camp 30 hours a week?
So no, in the past, when I was camp manager there, I was there 40 hours a week, and then plus the church. But now we have Matt, who is does the maintenance and upkeep and everything on the camp, and then I spend 10 hours there promoting the camp and checking people in, checking people out, and doing that sort of thing. And then I still do. I'm working on my house at the time. I have been for quite a few years, so I do that and other things, and then the church Wednesday nights.
Hey, I'm going to cut in for a second. Lindsay says, "Hey y'all," but she says it with emojis.
Lindsay's a realtor in Newport Beach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you've done some heavy equipment work there too, because you were doing that. I was there 6 weeks ago for a weekend, and I saw this big old D4 cat.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's going on here? That's you operating that.
Yeah. I've been.
Man's all about heavy equipment.
No, it's a lot of fun. Actually, the interesting thing when Ron Osmus, who builds homes in the Tri-Cities, beautiful homes. Actually, he built that building. He's the one that built the.
Yeah, I can
the
tell.
The
master did it.
So that's been there. That cat has been there for a while. But I remember when he was building the building, and it was there, and some dirt needed to be moved. And so I said, if you can come up and move this dirt, they can get their stuff in there. And he goes, well, why don't you just go ahead and do it? So I said, you sure? And he says, yeah, it's okay. So I actually started it and sat in it for about 45 minutes trying to get it to go while I was running, because I didn't turn up I didn't want it to go slow. So I didn't turn up the gas enough to get it to go for about 45 minutes. And then it was scary in the beginning, but now it's pretty cool. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Now, if you put me on that cat, I would have gone right through the lodge backward.
Yeah, it could happen.
Oh,
Hey, before we
goodness.
stop, I'm going to put up the website for Tony's church.
Okay, good. Yeah, we got your website for the church. Now, right now you're teaching a series in
The Book of Psalms.
Psalms. Yeah, and you 2 weeks ago, when you talk about antiphonal psalms where they say the Lord, God is our revelation.
Oh, right.
They would do these things,
Echo back.
and people don't really get that. but then you put on an army cadence
Oh, yeah.
or a squadron
The antiphonal
Right.
psalms.
antiphonals, and I thought, okay, I get this better than I've ever gotten it before. And you use a lot of clips and use really relevant stuff, and it's inspiring.
Oh, that's awesome. I try to. So
It really is.
It's like
Yeah.
I just get the Holy Spirit or whatever gives me an idea, and I think, oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
And then I try to find
And
something
it
that
makes
works.
sense.
And it does. It helps. It helps to
really-
understand. Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're all grown up and we made some, I don't know, but I've been told. And,
Yeah.
we do that on the football team, and
Right,
we make
right.
up stupid stuff.
Right.
And everybody be laughing, but to get you jacked up. That they did that in worship.
They did that.
They
And
did that in worship, and I thought, yeah.
And even in traveling and walking around, you can imagine hundreds and hundreds of people doing this, together. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
And then they did, and actually, you know how in stadiums, when people get excited, the whole stadium does the wave? Well, they did that in the Bible too, because it talks about the wave offering.
Yeah.
Right.
And they did the wave drill. It's cool.
So, that'd be a fun thing to do at church, Let's do the
That
wave
would.
offering.
Yes. And I will proudly confess that I don't like soccer, but when you watch these soccer games, and sometimes the stands are singing the whole game. They're all singing this. I'm thinking, you clucks are into this, man. It's like, wow. So anyhow, Tony Sykes, Faith Chapel, Dayton, Washington, Camp Tushy, master cabinet maker, and
Son
What-
of the living God.
son of the living God.
There you go.
Anything else?
No, that covers it. That's the
are-
most important.
Master at cribbage or something like that?
No, not quite.
Me neither.
Not anymore. I quit that.
I had to give it up once
Yeah,
I
you
got
did.
saved.
Right.
Yeah. But anyhow, folks, thanks for being with us. The Lord your God in the midst of you is mighty. He will rejoice over you with singing and with song, and he gazes upon you with joy. I'm mixing some blessings here. He gazes upon you with joy. You are his treasure, and he finds pleasure in you. Be blessed this day. Amen.